Hello, good morning. How are you doing today? My name is Michael, and I'm going to drink my coffee now so that I may wake up and share some beautiful things with you. Mmm, mmm, mmm. So here it is. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. I have so much to be thankful for. My life is far from perfect, mind you, and trust me, I am not a perfect person. I am flawed in many ways. Sometimes, quite embarrassingly, I must say. But on this day of Thanksgiving, I am greatly thankful. Mostly because I get to sit here and talk with you about with what I'm about to read. So let's get started. I'm reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, verses 20 through 28. Jesus said to his disciples, "When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its desolation is at hand. Then those in Judea must flee to the mountains. Let those within the city escape from it. And let those in the countryside not enter the city, for these days are the time of punishment, when all scriptures are fulfilled. Woe to the pregnant women and nursing mothers in those days, for a terrible calamity will come upon the earth, and a wrathful judgment upon this people. They will fall by the edge of the sword, excuse me, and be taken as captives to all the Gentiles. And Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. There will be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars, and on earth. Nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the world. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand." So what's going on here? What's going on here? Right? Sounds pretty dour, kind of like yesterday. Judgment is at hand. This is where that wicked, wrathful God seems to arise. And what's the purpose of it all? Why is God so wicked, and why is he so wrathful? Well, let's take a look. Basically, man is being judged. And how do we get judged? Yes, it is true that God judges us, but how does he judge us? Does he judge us directly? I mean, yeah, there are times when, like Sodom and Gomorrah, where he throws down fire and brimstone and destroys, everything. And there are other times, though, I wonder in times such as these, that God's judgment is that he stands there in woe with tears in his eyes. Being a father, I can only, I'm only beginning to understand this a little bit. But there are times when I have to watch my children endure pain. Not great pain, because they are children. But there are times, well, let's put it this way. I have rules, and the rules in my house are here to keep my family safe and my children happy. I teach them to love one another, to forgive one another, and then love one another. To always treat others as you wish to be treated. Um, I could go on. There are many lessons I try to teach my children, but the point of the matter is they go about their lives and they have free will, just as you have and just as I have. And there are times where they choose to not follow those ways, and there are some times when they do choose to not love someone else as they want to be loved. They love others the way they want to love them. And that's a flawed love. That's, I'm missing the word right now, but it's a flawed love. Because then you're holding back. You're loving the way you want to love, not the way that they deserve to be loved. And so out of that comes discord and stress and friction and disagreement. And with friction and disagreement can come emotional pain. And if it reaches a precipice, it could equal to physical pain when they start hitting each other or whacking each other with their favorite toy. And then they are in pain and they are woeful and they cry. I think sometimes it's kind of like that with God. You know, God lays out some laws for us and some rules for us, not to control us, but to free us from sin, because he knows that if we walk this path of love, loving him and loving others, we'll be devoid of sin. And when we are devoid of sin, we are more likely to live a life that is happy and free. And so I believe here what we're seeing is that you're seeing a nation that is being persecuted because they have long walked away from the path of God. And it scares me a bit because as I look at the news, I see people trying to get what they want. And they just seem confused and hurt. And it's kind of like me when I watch my children at play and around the house, and I can see they're walking off that path, and I hold my breath to see what happens. Because when they stop loving, I know what's going to happen. Bad things will happen. They will come into friction and discord with one another and others that they encounter. And it's hard. You try to tell them, hey, don't do that. Hey, you even give them timeouts. Hey, you're getting a little out of control. But unfortunately, just like grown-ups, I see people who come out of a time of duress. I see my children come out of a time of duress because it's just horrible being put in the corner. They come out of that corner and they haven't learned the lesson, and they continue to do what they want to do. And then they incur that friction, that discord, that pain. And as a father, you try to tend to them and you try to teach them a lesson. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, what's going on in the country? There are sometimes, there's good people swept up into the bad, right? Why doesn't God protect the good? Well, God gives us free will. And he only allows bad things to happen for a greater good. So just like, in our times, we see people who are good being put through times of punishment, here you have the righteous. And what does it say here? But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. I feel like I've been saying the same thing over and over again for the last few days, but this one, it just seems to get heavier and heavier and harder. It's about, at the end of the day, it's about being disciplined and standing up for God's way and being righteous and true. So how is this going to change my Thanksgiving? They're awake. I'm gonna do the best that I can, as flawed as I am, to have a beautiful Thanksgiving and to share my love and Thanksgiving. And they're opening the door right now as I'm recording a video. I guess it's time for me to go. I'm going to go through this Thanksgiving and I'm going to have a beautiful day. Light. Yes, I know. There is no light on. I guess it's time for me to turn my light on and be thankful that I have a beautiful Thanksgiving to share with others. And that's all I got to say about that.